All right. Hello and welcome to the Imagine Belonging at Work podcast brought to you by Rhodes Perry Consulting. I am your host, Rhodes Perry, and I am very, very excited for this episode with Dr. Lulu. Before we get into the conversation, just a little bit of background of what we're going to be doing over the next, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes or so. So, in a world increasingly polarized by anti diversity, equity, and inclusion rhetoric, the vision of a workplace where everyone feels that sense of belonging, it's more critical than ever before. And it might feel more elusive than ever before, too. So, if you followed my work for a bit, you know that I emphasize the necessity of building spaces of belonging where everyone can thrive and where no one experiences exclusion. And this episode is going to delve into the heart of this vision, really exploring the intersections of racial identity, national origin, gender identity, sexual orientation, and the profound act of parenting a Black transgender child. And we're going to have amazing insights from Dr. Lulu and her groundbreaking new book about your Black transgender child. Yeah, let's take a look at that. It is out. So if you're interested in it, please grab a copy. We'll share more about where to find it in a bit. A little bit about Dr. Lulu. Dr. Lulu is a Black immigrant physician and LGBTQ plus parent coach, bringing a unique perspective to this conversation. She's going to offer a powerful narrative of love, resilience, and unwavering support. And her book serves as a vital resource for parents and caregivers navigating the complex terrain of raising a Black transgender child, a journey often fraught with social judgment and a lack of clear guidance. So the episode is really going to connect these personal experiences to practical advice to this broader conversation of building more inclusive workplace cultures. And you might be wondering what the connection is. And so we're going to get into it, but just a little teaser here. We know demographics, these are destiny. And as demographics continue to shift, with Generation Z already leading the charge in ethnic, racial, and gender diversity, the need for gender inclusive and anti-racist workplaces is paramount. And Dr. Lulu's work really emphasizes this point, and the importance really of unlearning maybe harmful narratives that maybe we've been socialized with and embracing affirmation, principles that directly align with this vision of a future where belonging is not a privilege, it's our birthright, right? So let's get into it, Dr. Lulu. It's been a minute or two, and it's not lost on me that this is kind of we're wrapping up the end month of Women's History Month, of Trans Visibility Month, of Gender Equality Month. There's a lot of really great things going on right now. So
And my birthday.
yeah, happy birthday, Aries season, right?
The
So
most
yeah.
important thing, at least to me, is that it's my birthday month. So yes, absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank
It's really
you.
great having you back and congratulations on your book. That's huge accomplishment. Huge, huge. So yeah, yeah, you have birthed another very
Yes.
beautiful contribution to the planet. And yeah, and so talk to me. Like I know that the book is really a lifeline for a lot of parents, and I'm interested in like hearing more about how folks who have read it, who also have similar experiences, are like, thank you so much. Me too, right? And I guess like, right, because the show is about imagining belonging in workplace settings first, how do you see the challenges that Black trans kids, young people face within family and community dynamics, mirroring those similar experiences for trans folks in the workplace, particularly just given what's going on in the social and political climate that we're living through.
I mean, it's just like you said, it's about belonging. It's about feeling like you are part of the bigger puzzle. The home, in the case of a child, is their microcosm, and the person at work, I mean, they spend what, a third of the 24 hours at work. So it's like a micro, it's like a home out away from home as well. And so we need to feel fully unrestricted, both emotionally and physically and otherwise. We the need is there to be able to bring all of us forward. We have to feel like every part of us is, I don't like the word accepted
Mm.
because I almost feel like, well, yeah, then you don't have to accept. But I just feel like we it needs to be piece of the whole picture. I
Mm.
mean, I've never seen a Van Gogh where I don't know. I obviously I don't know much about famous painters, but they don't paint a whole face and leave out the nose, right? They don't paint a whole face and leave out the ears, right? It's we want to feel like we're part of the entire body of the family, whether it's at work, whether it's a work family or the home family. So it's a parallel, it's a direct parallel. One of my favorite quotes, actually, the one on the front of the book,
Yeah.
is every trans adult was once a trans child hiding in plain sight. So
Mm,
that's to kind of give you an idea of what's happening. Most people think that people just become trans, just wake up as an adult and become trans. I thought that.
yes. Yeah.
But that trans adult was a trans child. Today I'm a queer, pansexual. Some days I feel like I'm asexual, wholly curious adult, but I was all of that as a child.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
was all of that as a child. I didn't just, I've always had this personality. I've always had this energy. I've always had the same head, the same, everything's been the same, whether it was forward facing or not as a child.
Hmm.
It's forward facing as an adult now, but that doesn't mean that that's the only time that they knew.
Hmm. Hmm.
Most of my clients, most of their children, we've all known our gender identities from before we could talk.
Yeah.
Just because we say it at the age of 7 or at the age of 17 or 27 doesn't mean that that's the day we found out about it. So the home is definitely a mirror image of the workplace. It's all about feeling psychologically safe enough to bring forward all of me. No one is more important. Well, I was just talking about what happened to me in a WhatsApp group a minute ago. I feel like I'm excluded now.
Yeah.
And if there's any other doctor in that group or any other person in that group who is queer, they're never gonna want to say anything because I just got chewed
Mhm.
out for being queer.
Yeah. Would you like to share a little bit of context just for listeners? Because we were
Oh, I
chatting.
mean,
I think it's
sure. I mean, I have an event coming up tomorrow. It's a Pride open mic event that I'm having tomorrow here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're celebrating Women History Month. So I made a post in a group, and I did, in all fairness, begin by saying, "Admin, please delete if inappropriate," because I always want to give them the autonomy. They're the admins.
Mhm.
But the post made it for, I don't know, 24 hours, and it was appropriate until one person said, "Well, wait a minute, I don't think this group we should be posting. I think it's a personal choice." And I don't like that word choice when talking about LGBT. But the person said they didn't think, we should be posting about LGBT stuff in a group because it's a personal choice. Before my post, somebody shared about how they matched. That's a personal thing. After my post, somebody shared about somebody's mother who passed away. That's a personal thing. No
Mhm.
one said anything about that. But the LGBT one, though, is a personal thing.
Mhm.
So, of course, I don't feel like I belong.
Mhm.
Maybe my younger version of me would leave the group to
Mhm.
make a statement. But this version of me, I mean, it's like, where am I going to go to? I'm going to stay there because I pay my dues and I'm a bona fide member of that place and I'm proudly queer. I have no apologies. I have nothing to hide. I'm not owing anybody money. Even if I did, I
Mhm.
still have a right to breathe. And actually today my post on Instagram said, on LinkedIn said that, before I knew that I was pansexual, I was like, oh, I want to just date one group of people. I don't want people to know about it. But now I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
listen,
Mhm.
it's 1% of who I am, but it's
Yeah.
also part of who I am. So you can't have me without all of me.
Yes.
I had someone mention one time that, most of my posts are polarized. And I said, the world is polarizing. I didn't create the word polarize. If
Mhm.
you see my posts as polarizing, then they will be polarizing for you because you're coming in with a polarizing energy. But
Mhm.
I see people who say, oh my goodness, thank you for this post, because for them, the post is inclusive.
Mhm.
So, you just decide. And that's why I said to the person, I said, my post is not the reason your life sucks. I mean, you got to figure out why your life sucks right now because it's not this post. And yes,
Yeah.
I will go
Yeah.
there. I'll go
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Thank you for opening up because I think like the key word for me that keeps coming up is this being, right? Like and becoming, right? Like realizing we having more words to describe, oh wait, this is a better way of describing who I am, who I've always been. And that connection, starting with family, thinking about workplace, like institutions, right? Like if you show up at in your family or at the workplace, right? Like you want to be able to be unapologetically yourself in a way that's in alignment with like advancing, in a workplace, advancing the mission, right? And in a family too, it's being seen as adding value to that because you're there, like you're being shaped by that institution, but like you're also shaping it back because you're a part of it, right? And then that becomes something new and unique because you're there, right? And you're adding that value. So I like that distinction. Words are really important to me as a writer. Right. So like as you said, like acceptance, like not really kind of feeling like that's the right word in this context. I think it's like adding value, like because you're there, because you are you, and you're able to describe who you are, right? People see that as an added value because they are not exactly like you and vice versa, right? So
Yeah, literally, they're not like us, and that's okay. I think what I want to say is
mhm,
that's okay. One of my favorites, I think it's probably in the book. If it's not in the book, then I talk about it all the time.
mhm,
Tarzan, I talk about Tarzan all the time. Tarzan is human,
mhm,
was raised by non-humans,
mhm,
obviously. And when he saw Jane and he saw the other explorers, he was like, tell me now. I want to know. I want to know about the strangers like me. He
mhm,
needed to see the strangers, but he saw himself in the strangers. Like he said, I want to know. Please share, show me or tell me or whatever. I want to know about the strangers like me. So all of us are walking around like strangers, but we know that they're like us, right? And it's when we start like delving into, well, you have a hat on.
mhm.
Well, and I have, I know blue shirt. Well, got a blue shirt. Okay, so I got a pink shirt on there. And then we start looking for differences. But really, we're
Yeah.
really like the same. And Tarzan recognized it and told the apes that I want to know about those people. So
Yeah.
that's because he wanted to belong to, he belonged with the apes, but he also knew that he belonged a little bit more
Yeah.
with these people who are walking upright. They don't climb on trees. They have
Mhm,
a different language. Who are
mhm.
these people? And
Yeah.
that's how I want us as queer folks, when we're
Mhm,
walking around, we have to be ourselves. We have to walk up straight and talk how we are so that people,
mhm,
other people, will see us and want to know that, oh, I want to know more. One of the things I always do is always have a bracelet that has the LGBT colors on it, no matter where I go,
yeah.
because I want someone, I want a kid across the room, I want an adult across the street. I want somebody to see me and know that I'm safe for
Mhm,
them. How are they going to know I'm safe if I don't show myself? In that WhatsApp group right now, if I hadn't made that post,
mhm.
how would they have known that there's such a thing? The one guy who doesn't agree with it, how would he have known? He had to see me. But he
Yeah.
doesn't truly know me though. And so
Mhm,
I told him, I said, you don't know me and I don't know you.
mhm, mhm.
But I know that my post is not the reason you feel this way. It
Yeah.
cannot be.
Yeah.
This is something
Yeah.
that precedes me. So
Yeah.
I don't know
No,
where I was going with that.
I no, I really like that story and just the analogy to Tarzan, right? Where it's just there's and kind of like listening to you, it's thinking about the role of curiosity and really just to
Yes.
seek to understand, right? To really, right? Like, I mean, that's why I love podcasting, right? I want to learn, like, why did you write this book? Tell me more about you and your story. Like, there's a genuine curiosity because I don't know. I don't know what it's like to live the world through your perspective and vice versa. And that's like, there's a beauty in that if we're not threatened by each other or kind of the way that we approach life and unfortunately there's a lot of scapegoating, that whether it's the work that we do or who we are in the world, there's a lot of scapegoating, as you said, of like the pain that you're experiencing is because of this group and this group and this group, and that's not the case. Like your pain is
Not the
not
case.
because of me or because of you.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody's, and I want, if everyone listening, if you don't, if you're queer, if you're LGBT, if you're trans, if you're intersex, if you're pansexual, if you're questioning, whatever you are today, if you can hear my voice,
Mhm,
I want you to take that message home that that person across the street, his pain has nothing to do with you.
mhm,
You did not cause their pain. You can't. What
mhm,
are you, 1.3% of the population trans people? You cannot be the cause of the pain. All queer people officially today were still officially less than 10% for those who raised their hands. Official polls from 2 or 3 years ago says about 7.6% of the adult population in the US are LGBT, identify as LGBT. That's less than 10%. Now, I know that that number is higher.
Mhm.
So there'll be so many people. This person who attacked that post probably is in the closet, right?
Mhm.
But because he cannot live out loud, how dare I live out loud? And so
Mhm.
I want you to remember, if nothing else, that whether you're at work, whether you're at play, whether you're at home, whether you're on the bus, wherever you find yourself, walk tall, walk straight, because there's somebody who is a Tarzan who is
Mhm.
looking for you, who sees you, and your life is the book that they're going to read, or your life is the mirror through which they look at life, or your life is the window through which they see the world. So you cannot not live your truth. And if the place is challenging, if the place of work is not safe, I give you permission to get out of there. You do not have to stay in a place that is not psychologically safe.
Mhm.
Some of us will have to stay and fight. People like me, and like I told you, I said, a younger version of me will leave the place and just bounce. Like, I don't need y'all.
Mhm.
But I know that I'm not the only queer person in a space with like 300 doctors. There's no way. The population is about 10%, meaning
Mhm.
at least 30 of us in that space
Yeah.
are also queer,
Yes.
if numbers serve us correctly.
Mhm.
So I'm not going anywhere. He's going to have to come through me because I'm here for my child, which is a whole nother conversation altogether.
And let's go there. Let's talk about, I mean, one, in your book, you talk about some of the challenges that trans folks as a whole experience. You add in, being a racialized person, being a Black trans child, that those numbers get more compounded. And one thing I want to kind of underscore to your point, right? Like talking about percentages, right? Like living in a world where to be a trans, non-binary, two-spirit, gender expansive person, that not many people have that experience, right? And so
Exactly.
you're navigating a world where the world doesn't understand people like me, right? And so um, there's bad behavior when people don't really understand a person or a community that's different than them. Sometimes if there's not that curiosity, unskillful behavior can come your way, and that can compound, that can make living life much more difficult, right? So I just want to add that context. Like there's nothing wrong with trans, non-binary folks, right? Like it's just living in a world that has not really really taken the time to create the space for us to really live our lives and flourish, right? And despite
Yeah,
all
and I
those
like the
odds,
word. Yeah, I
yeah.
like the word you used. You used curiosity. I wish we could all be a little bit more curious. Like try a little kindness, but also try a little, like if he had said, wow, what is this thing you're doing?
Mhm.
I'll be like, oh, well, let me tell you, as opposed to don't do this. And that's what we do. Just come back to parenting with
Yeah.
my child when she was young, when she was 7 or 6, whatever the age was, she would come home, she would have her little sweater around her head and say, Mom, look at me. I have long hair like a girl. I'd be like, no, no, you don't have long hair like a girl. You're not a girl. Or she would tie her sweater around her waist and say, Mom, look at me. I'm a girl. I'd be like, no, you're not a girl. Because deep in my heart, I was like, I want my child to have a chance. I want my child to have a chance to flourish.
Mhm.
That was what I thought. And by stunting her or extinguishing this part of her, I thought that she would get a chance. But really, what I was doing, which I say all the time with my full chest, is I was being her first bully.
Mhm.
I was the first one to clip her wings. I was her first traitor. I was the first one who did her wrong. A lot of parents are like that because either societal reasons. I mean, talking to you now, I have no negativity towards this gentleman because truly he doesn't know me. If he got to know me, when I walk in the room, I light up the room. That's not something like queerness. That's just me, right? That's my energy that I have.
Yes.
And he now has made himself my enemy because of this one post, he's robbed himself of the chance to get to know anything about me. And this is what I'm saying about when we lead with negativity towards a group of people that you don't really know.
Yeah.
Like Tarzan could have also said, I don't want to know those people. Like, who are they? Let's drive them away. Let's be hostile to them. Or
Yeah.
maybe the apes will have, attacked the people. But they were like, let's see who are these people and what are they about. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
Yeah.
just
No,
um,
It's really good. I just want to, I was writing something down because I was like, wait, there's two
Hmm.
really important points that you're bringing up. And one is like just talking about your daughter, right? And your instinct as a parent to protect, right?
To
Like that
protect, yeah.
protective factor, right? I think for any parent who's listening who has a trans non-binary child, right? Like thinking, oh, like me too, right? Like the instinct is to protect, knowing what we were just talking about, society's misunderstanding and lack of curiosity to want to learn more about who we are, right? And so it's like your instinct is like, oh no, 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 like here, this is the way that we do it so that you can
Yeah.
have a chance, right? And something to introduce, and I know you cover this, right? Is just thinking about like family accepting behaviors, like the best protective factor for your kids to grow up and thrive as adults is that real like curiosity of understanding how to provide, that affirmation, right? Of like, oh, this is so great, like you're exploring, right? You're exploring gender,
Or,
right? Like, you know, yeah,
or I don't know. I think
yeah,
I don't also want parents to just, not every parent truly knows what to say.
yeah,
Not everyone, not every co-worker, let's bring it back to work, knows what to say to their co-worker who says, my name is Dr. Lulu and my pronouns are, I don't know, they, them, for instance. Like,
yeah,
rather say, oh, there's another they, them. Why don't you say, oh, wow, you know what? I've always wanted to know about, tell me more. Like the three words, there's a TED talk out there that say that the lady was talking about how you can call people in as
mm,
opposed to calling them out. And the
mm,
three words she recommended was tell me more.
mm,
Like when you ask someone to tell you more, you've closed the space right away. Like the heart is closed and it's like you lean in. So it's like I say, tell me more. Like I reflexly lean in, right?
mm,
As opposed to, that.
mm,
So, and then, oh, the person's gonna like, oh my goodness.
mhm,
Well, I mean, and then they just start saying, or they might say, you know what? I appreciate your interest, but I really don't. I don't have the bandwidth to talk about it today. Maybe another time, or I just don't.
mhm,
And I want to say that because some of us, you and I, we're in the space of education. It's kind of the path
mhm,
we've chosen. So I
yeah,
want to say to people, if you don't know what to say at work, you can actually ask Rhodes, right? Ask
mm,
people who
yeah,
this is the work that they're doing.
yes,
And then I'll tell you everything I know about myself, about my parenting,
mhm,
and zero about my daughter, because I truly don't know what it's like to be gender diverse, but I do know how to like what it's like to be a parent of one, right? So I could tell you as much as that. And then Rhodes would take the baton and tell you what it's like to actually like stand in that space.
yeah,
So there are people, so we're saying just ask the question, ask what you want to know. Don't, there's verbal and nonverbal communication. When the person walks into the space and this is how they look and you start clocking them, you can't
mhm,
tell. Like when I walk in the room, you can't tell that I'm pansexual. No, there's no look,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, but if I mention my partner and I don't mention my husband,
mhm,
rather than you saying you don't have a husband, say, oh, tell me about your partner, right?
yes,
Tell me more.
yes,
So everyone who's listening to this, when you get to work, get curious and use those three words, tell me more.
yeah,
When it comes to parenting, I say the three letters I use is number one, T is thank the child for sharing this monumental thing with you. And you can also thank your coworker.
yeah,
And then the second letter A is ask them, how can I help? Like, truly, what can I do to make this office a little bit easier for you to navigate? And then D is make a decision
mhm, mhm,
to be an ally. And as you know, allyship is it's not demonstrative, it's not performative, it's not a spectator sport. You must roll up your sleeves and get dirty if you
mhm,
want to be an ally.
yeah,
You want to be an advocate, or you want to be like me, an activist. That's the superlative, right? In the
mhm,
book, I talk about it like in those three terms. Ally is like baseline, advocate is like a little bit systemic level, and then activism is like, okay, national, like you're out there. Each of those steps is important,
mhm,
and you find where you fit in. And sometimes it's not quite as like rigid. They're all kind of walking to one, or are they? But just asking the person, wow, Rhodes, I've always wanted to know, this whole they, them thing. I mean, And I'd be like, oh, well, great. Well, if you found this mouse on my table, you would say, oh, somebody left their mouse.
Yeah.
You already use it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. We've got the
So when
DNA
I
for
tell
it.
you, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, no, I was just saying we definitely have the repetitions to use the singular they. I just want to like jump in to say, I thank you for just that framing. If someone, and it could be beyond, talking about gender identity here. Like if someone shares something precious about who they are, right? Really receiving that with care, knowing like, wow, that was a big share. Thank you so much for trusting me. Like just starting
Yeah.
with that and then that curiosity piece, right? Like it's just like masterclass of like lean into the things that you're maybe scared of or that you want to learn more about. You're maybe afraid of saying the wrong thing. Like if and it's moving at the speed of like the depth of that relationship. If you're just meeting someone for the first time, just thank them and let
And
them
then, yeah,
lead,
and just
right?
back off. And
Yeah.
then, and then, and you can also just say, thank you so much for sharing. And you just so you know, I've been here for 2 months. So if you need anything, right? It could even just be if you need anything,
Yep. Totally.
and leaving it open like that, not necessarily about your sexuality or your gender, or like you said, I could have shared that maybe my kid was, oh God, I don't want to use this word, killed in a car crash. Let me just say that. Like your job is now, oh, what did happen?
Right. Yep.
I just, oh my goodness, thank you so much for finding me safe enough to share that with me because I'm
Mm,
sure that was a lot. I'm sure you've been, and just think about you telling your child, oh, thank
mhm.
you so much for sharing that because I'm sure it was hard for you to
Yeah.
even tell me,
Yep.
considering. And the kid will be like, oh, mom, no, cool, or whatever, right?
Right.
The kid
Yeah.
gets to respond and then let them own their
Mm.
response.
Mhm.
They might say, okay, mom, so mom, that's all I want to tell you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like whenever you're ready, I'll be here. Like just
Yeah.
leaving it open. I think you can say that at home or you can say that at work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by doing those things, right? Like that, these are trust building activities, right? Like when you think about being a part of a family or, obviously in the workplace in the context of this podcast, right? Like if you want to perform and you want results, it's the trust, that's the currency. And that's why these conversations are important as they're relevant to like, again, like the quality, the depth of the relationships that you're building. People are going to share things that are personal, that are precious to them because they trust you. And if they're sharing that, that's a high compliment, right? That they believe that you can receive that information with care, right? And I love that. One of the other things, right? Like this episode is all about like belonging beyond the binaries, right? And I think like in workplace context, if we're talking about trans employees, gender expansive employees, non-binary employees, et cetera, right? It's like we're thinking about this population of employees, like employee group, right? And yet, right, there's nuance, right? So for parents like you, for siblings in the workplace with loved ones who are trans or non-binary, with friends, right, that are in the workplace that are impacted by policy decisions, things like that. Like, what are some of the things that might be helpful that maybe employers don't know about the greater expanse of our communities, meaning particularly with parent groups, that they might need to know to really kind of win the future of work? Like if you were, I don't know. You're doing your thing, right? But if you were to work at a hospital and a hospital was recruiting you to be a pediatrician there, right? Or in a practice, right? Like, what would be some of the things you would be looking out for as a parent of a trans child, right? That really making sure, like, wow, they thought about me, not just
Yeah,
like,
we thought about
right?
my child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's more specific for the medical field. So I'm going to talk about that if I may. As a matter of fact, I just launched my program, my TAP program, TAHPPP,
Mhm.
is the Affirm Healthcare Professionals Prescription Program, or just the Affirm program. So
Yeah.
TAP, either how and how you look at it. And that's actually what we're trying to do. We're seeking to create safe, patient-centered,
Mhm.
inclusive practices and spaces, period. Now, I am a little biased because I'm Black, so it's towards Black LGBT plus patients, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, believe it or not, before the parent comes into your office, they already maybe checked your website.
Mhm.
They already maybe checked you out on social media. So maybe they look to see if you have any like affiliations with any LGBT plus organizations, and are you bold enough to put it on there?
Mhm.
Because you might be, but you might be in hiding. But are you bold enough to put that we partner with the P flag, or we partner with Human Rights Campaign, or who we donate money, who we receive money from, are
Mhm.
LGBT plus facing organizations? Now that we know that, there's some organizations that are being essentially canceled, because of their DEI stances, something similar to that. So the website will be the first thing. And then before they come into your office, guess what? They're going to call.
Yeah.
So if the
Yeah.
person picking up the phone, who is the first person that represents your office,
Yeah.
if they sound a certain way on the phone, maybe say your name a certain way, or pause when you say transgender, you can kind of tell over the phone,
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
going to hang up and never come back. And my brand new client who actually told me something that I hadn't thought about, her practice has the word women in it.
Mhm.
And she's trying to hold space for seahorses, and seahorses are trans men who have babies. And
Yeah.
then therein lies the problem. She was like, wait, I never thought about the fact that my name of my practice has women, and I'm trying to be inclusive. So now we're going to look for a new name as part of the program that I'm going to work with her. So something as simple as that, you may not be thinking.
Yeah.
When they walk into the room, when you're calling the name, if he says Danielle, call Danielle. Don't say David. I mean, Danielle,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Ch-
And then they might be looking for pictures on the wall that show same gender loving or no pictures at all. Like I'm just saying, don't show too much of one and none of the other.
Yeah.
Balance it out. Maybe
Yeah.
if there's a flag, if there's a place where you have flags, put all the flags. Put the US flag, put the Nigerian flag, and put the LGBT flag. I don't know. I'm just saying, don't put just one and then not the other.
Mhm.
Specifically, I like the idea of having pronouns on name pins. I think that's the barest minimum these days.
Mhm.
Pronouns are not the enemy, people. We learned about pronouns in kindergarten. We learned about pronouns. Everybody's been talking about pronouns since the days of Noah. So having pronouns on your name pin, introducing yourself. My name is Maria, and I use she/her pronouns,
Mhm.
and that is company policy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because here's the thing: it's not just the woman coming in with her child, or the mom or the parent coming in with their child. It's also your co-workers who are queer.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's also your colleagues who are queer. They're all watching you to see, okay, wow, my doctor just started this whole thing about like being affirming. Okay, let me tell my sister who is a lesbian. She needs
Mhm.
to come to my doctor's office. That's where the shiznit. So it affects the bottom line at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So, and then you call them into the office, or maybe the bathroom says all gender restrooms. Like I work, I don't know if I can say their name, but in the place where I work right now, they have all gender restrooms.
Mhm. Mhm.
What? Of course, I want people to come there because even though it's a pediatric clinic, it says all gender. Like, listen, the bathrooms in your house are all gender. Okay. The
Yes.
bathrooms on the airplane are all gender. If
Mhm.
a man uses the bathroom, a woman can use it. I'm more worried about you cleaning up after yourself than your gender for using the bathroom, for goodness sakes. Like,
Yes. Yes.
what do you want? You
Yes.
want Rhodes to go into a ladies' room? How would you feel if you saw Rhodes walking into a ladies' room? I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's that. And then when they come into the room and the nurse is asking questions, I would like for your EMR or for your chart system to have a special place where it says, maybe like a little thing, bing, 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 bing. This person is transgender, so that, if I don't click on it, I can't move forward,
Mhm.
can't advance on the EMR. I have to appreciate that. And I say, oh, okay. So that when I walk in the room, I start by saying, my name is Dr. Lulu, and I use she, her pronouns. How may I address you?
Yes. Fastest way
What
to
name
build
should I, yeah,
trust.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what name
Yeah.
should I use for you?
Yeah.
Do you have any special pronouns you want to share with me? Now, also as a pediatrician, there comes the issue of the child versus the parent. Unfortunately, there are just some things that we cannot do because, I mean, when it's a minor, it's a minor. But I'll tell you one thing. I had a patient come back into the office after they had gone.
Mhm.
She wanted to use the restroom. She ran in to tell me, I love your bracelets.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
Made my day.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't need to ask why.
Mhm.
That's all they needed to say to me. And I knew, and they knew, and that the message was already there. And I wait for them to turn 18 if that's what the rule is. It's like,
Mhm.
so not all the things are easily doable, but some of them you can. And the doctor, as the leader of the team, you got to get your words right. Language is everything.
Mhm.
Language, what do I call this part of my body? Ask me.
Mhm. Yes.
And then maybe I have gender dysphoria for touching. Maybe I'm not a hugger. You might be a hugger, but I'm not a hugger. May I hug you?
Mhm.
Oh, no, I'd rather shake your hand. Okay. And then be okay with me having my boundaries.
Mhm.
One of the things I tell doctors is first do no further harm.
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
Your patient truly comes default likely to have already had a lot of trauma.
Mhm.
In that same vein, ask the patient, what are the things that affirm you?
Mhm.
What are the things that make you happy? Queer people are not just walking around sad. Have you met me before? Like,
Mhm.
we have a lot of happy queer folks that know how to harness our queer joy. Ask us what are the things that make you joyful,
Yeah.
and watch that patient just like
Mhm.
bring their
Mhm.
friends, and then, you know,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah, just to jump in because I mean, there's so many really concrete actions you just shared, and certainly from a healthcare perspective, and and rolling it back, like just that phrase, "Do no further harm," like that
yes, I came up.
trauma-informed
That's my
approach.
original. That's the Lulu's original quote. I
It's
made that up. I'm so proud of
Yes.
myself.
Yes, all of the attribution to you, and thank you for saying it, right? It's a great way of putting trauma-informed practice into action. And I would say like for those folks who are tuning in who are in HR, right? Or really kind of thinking about the broader organization culture, regardless of if you're in healthcare or not, so much of what you've just shared, those actions is like truly rolling out a welcome mat. And
Same.
and I think in the environment that we're in, I'm really curious, like what you're seeing, Dr. Lulu, is this kind of retraction of talking about different targeted interventions for different populations in the workplace that like it's talking about those interventions being necessary to level up and enhance the experiences of everyone. And so I guess like could you think of like maybe an example or two of like even with pronoun shares, how that could benefit cisgender people or people who don't think about their gender as much as those of us who are trans, right? Like, can you think of an example of like how some of the strategies you've just offered can really improve, right, the experiences of all people inside of a workplace, right? Like,
I think it's very simple. Truly, I know people like money, so I'm gonna stick with my guns here.
mhm,
The bottom line, if your employee feels safe, if your website has a little thing that tells me that okay, they're queer friendly, that's an employee attraction tool.
mhm,
If I come in and I see with my own two eyes, that's employee retention tool.
mhm,
For doctors, if your patient loves and trusts you, they're not going to sue you anytime soon. You
mhm,
have a better patient because they're going to be more compliant. They're going to take their medications. They're going to want to do everything to be a better patient. And also, they're going to want you to look at the listen. Have you had someone who had a haircut? You need to go to my barber, right? There are people like that, and then people say, "Oh, really? Yes, I love my barber so much." Same thing. You need to go to my doctor. I love my doctor so much. Same thing. You need to come work at my place. I love the place I work so much. It's all the same thing. If people feel safe, it's a better place for all of us. You don't have to be cisgender or transgender to understand that. That
mhm,
when we're all happy, when we all bring ourselves to work, you know, they said first they came for this person and then they didn't do, then they came for this person, and they didn't do. I just say when there's a fire in your neighborhood, you better help to water in your neighbor's house because you're next. Today it may be the trans people. Tomorrow it's people with blue eyes. It's happened before.
yep,
Right? So it's not going to stop at us. But why can't we all just give love a chance? Give
mhm,
curiosity a chance. Give kindness a chance. Give compassion a chance. That's my favorite words is compassion. One of my favorite words. Compassion takes empathy to the next level. I
mhm,
know Brené Brown made empathy popular, but listen to me when I say compassion is empathy plus how can I help? How can I help is where the money is.
mhm, mhm,
Empathy is I see you, I feel you, I see your pain, I hear you.
mhm,
Compassion is how can I which is why I said the second question, the second thing you say is, can I help? What can I do to make
Mhm.
you breathe better,
Yeah.
to make you feel welcome here? You would do the same thing to the list of any other employee. You should be able to do that to anybody anyway. It really shouldn't be, it shouldn't be like, this place is really good because they asked you to, how can I? You should be asking everyone, how can I help? We should all be about helping one another.
Yeah. I love
That,
that.
I
So,
think, is the key.
yeah, the P or
The key. I think, I
oh,
know,
the
I'm saying
key.
that's the
I thought that was
key.
part of your acronym. Okay. Yeah. The
Yeah, no,
key.
no, no.
Yes.
Well, I don't have
Okay.
anything for key yet, but I might come up with something. But I think that's the key. That's the
Yeah.
key to even you feel better when you're kind.
Yeah.
Like literally, you feel fulfilled when you're. Somebody sent me a text today.
Mhm.
She said, I don't want to. She said something about my event tomorrow, how she's so sorry that she really wanted to come, but she hasn't gotten paid yet. And I
Mhm.
said, just come. It's my event. Just come. You don't have to pay. I said, listen, I have been given grace.
Mhm.
It's oh, I can give grace. It's $25. It's not gonna make or break me. But you really want to come? You took the time to text me to tell me
Mhm.
you come to the event.
Oh yeah.
It's called grace. And
Yes.
when I did that, I felt good inside.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's it's something that like for each of us, like just thinking about waking up in the morning of like how can I be an example of love, compassion, kindness, right?
Today.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I think this other question that I'm playing around with, and I think this will be like a nice question to land on just to close the interview.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much we can talk about. So, but this is like who do I need to become to be the leader I need right now in this moment? And so just kind of recognizing like, just how we opened up, so much of our journey in life is truly being ourselves. And so Dr. Lulu, like because the show is about imagining the future, imagining a future where we all belong and none of us are excluded. Um, what are you seeing in this future when it comes to parenting trans children, right? Parenting Black trans children. Like what experiences of trans folks in the workplace might be like in the future? Like, what are you seeing in that? And in terms of the leader you're becoming, like, how do you see yourself ushering in this future?
The question and that's a good question, but I think the question I'll ask everyone to ask themselves is before ever having a baby, talking about parents now, before ever having a child,
Mhm.
ask yourself, what are my thoughts about having a child who is indeed in the queer space or LGBT? Because we know that thanks to Gen Alphas and Gen Zers, the
Mhm.
numbers are increasing. It's what, 52% of them
A lot.
not straight?
Nope.
So, and that's those that raise their hand. I keep saying that's only those that raise their hand. So there are more who did not raise their hands who are.
Yes. Yeah.
So asking yourself that question, because we're talking about being trans, let's go there. What if this child that's my belly that I love so much, what if they turn out to be trans? And I say this now knowing that a child who's transgender knows that they are at the age of 2. By 18 months, actually, they might just not have the words.
Mhm.
And start then to not be so binary in everything you're doing around this child
Mhm.
because of the possibility. My third TEDx talk is titled Let the Children Lead,
Mhm.
Parenting as Students. We need to see that every child that we have that is born to us is a stranger to us. The
Mhm.
children teach us who they are.
Mhm.
You might think you know your kids, but the truth is, you only know what your kid wants to tell you. Let's be honest. We all know the things that we didn't tell our parents,
Mhm.
and our kids didn't tell us because of they don't know how you're going to react to it or whatever. So, learning your child, allowing yourself to come to learn your child. Same thing at work. I don't know who this person is, but the best way for me to be invited in is for me to put myself in their shoes and say, what if this was me? How would I like to be treated at work? How would I want to? So I see a future where we're all asking ourselves, where really is my pain coming from?
Hmm.
This way I feel about trans people, where is it? What's the source of it? Is
Hmm.
it society? Is it therefore okay for me to treat another person this way? If
Hmm.
we all started asking that question, I think the future is going to be bright because trans people are the most resilient people that I know. They are not going anywhere. They've always been here. And besides, they're only 1.3%, maybe, okay, at the most, maybe 2% of the population that we know of. So when people say that they've never met a trans person, it's possible that you've never met a trans person, but also it might be that they're hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
Dr. Monica, the reason this quote came up was because my friend Dr. Monica, he said, I have a lot of trans patients. I have a lot of white trans patients. I have a few Hispanic trans patients. I even have some indigenous trans patients. I just don't have any Black trans patients. She's in Portland, Oregon. She's in the pediatric program in the medical school there. I
Yeah.
said, girl, you do.
Yeah.
She said, what do you mean? I said, they're hiding in plain sight. And that's when he came up. That's when I said, they're there.
Yeah.
And then I felt so proud of myself. And then I got home and I told my kid, and she was like, Mom, yeah, I know. I mean, you're kind of sort of right, but you know what? I would have never told you. And I
Mhm.
said, what do you mean? She said, because you were my pediatrician
Ah.
and also mom. So
Mhm.
in her own, she's like, I would have remained hiding forever or
Mhm.
hidden forever because you were very transphobic when I was growing up. My chat said this to me. So
Yeah.
bearing that in mind,
Mhm.
because I raised a child who could tell me that, not all kids are going to tell. So just remembering that whatever your thoughts are about the queer community, about the trans community, if the source of information is not an affirming person or a trans person who is out, it's very likely not accurate.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, Dr. Lulu, I feel like we have to we're gonna have to do this again next year at some point because there's so much more to cover. Um, and I feel like this, like just this final thought that you were sharing is kind of the theme of this episode is like if we're going beyond binaries, there's a lot of nuance in that in any kind of binary that's constructed. And it takes a lot of curiosity to really appreciate those nuances. And so thank you for challenging us today. For folks that are tuning in on LinkedIn or YouTube, thank you. It's good to see you. We're going to be back in a couple weeks with some more guests that will be helpful as we explore how to navigate this new era of doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work, of building spaces of belonging. So I hope you will join us in that. If you want to stay connected to joining these live conversations, just go to rhodesperry.com and subscribe to the Belonging Movement newsletter, and you'll be connected with thought leaders like Dr. Lulu. So, again, Dr. Lulu, thank you so much for being a part of today's conversation. It was a pleasure.
To give a free copy of a book to one of your listeners, I'll let you come up with
Yeah,
any question from one of the things that we talked about today. And if somebody gets it right, I'm happy to send them an autographed copy of the book. Otherwise, they're welcome to get the books. I don't want to say the word Amazon, but I really prefer for you to get them directly from me so that
mhm,
you get autographed copies, and then also so I get my full remuneration that I deserve because
absolutely.
Amazon is just not doing it. But
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me. I
yeah,
appreciate you having me always. I hope I answered your questions.
you did.
I know I do tend
Yeah,
to ramble, but I mean, I hopefully they got something. If nothing
absolutely.
at all, at least they got the fact that they need to stay curious and ask help. Just ask, what can I do to help, or just say, tell me more.
Yeah.
And all the best. All
Yes,
the
thank you
best.
for who you are, Dr. Lulu, and how you show up in the world. And we'll make sure to include the link where to find the autographed copies of the books in the show notes. So thank you so much. And thanks everyone for growing the belonging movement. We'll see you soon. Bye.